him to court and prove you're innocent. That's up to you. And all of these are things that yes, we can trim the budget. There's enough fat in the federal government that if you rendered it, you could wash the world.
They took a poll of the American people the past week, and I think 78% or something, around 75% were opposed to more military aid to Vietnam and Cambodia and Southeast Asia in general. And yet the administration was trying to tell the American people that a couple $100 million or $222 million would make some kind of difference, or that the government might make it. And how do you feel? Do you think that that is a lost cause in a way? I think people can see humanitarian, for children, hospitals, etc., medical supplies and food. But it seems that the public has just almost had it up with military involvement, where we feel that we are not directly threatened.
Well, we are fed up. We're war weary after a long and badly fought war. On the other hand, and this is one where I'll probably lose a lot of people because it isn't popular or political to say this today. When we withdrew our troops, we made a ceasefire, a peace agreement. And it was based on supporting the non-communist forces in Indochina on a basis of one-for-one replacement. Every bullet they expended a bullet to replace it if the communists violated the ceasefire. Mm-hmm. The communists have violated the ceasefire 72,000 times since it was instituted and we brought our men home. And I think for the United States to break its word, we're in that agreement. We pledged something, and the Congress is now saying that the United States reserves the right to just break its word and not. What are their allies ever going to trust us? And there's no question that backed by Red China and the Soviet Union, the communist forces in Vietnam and Cambodia are on their way to take those over. They do, of course. Laos just automatically falls. Mm-hmm. Then they're on the edge of Indonesia, 140 million people, which comes within 14 miles of its nearest point of the Philippines. The domino theory is in existence.
Is that still a viable theory, do you think?
And yes, it is. And I could see the United States one day being very, very lonely. Now, it's a very funny thing that the same forces that want to cut our defense spending are the same ones that want to increase all these social services and this social tinkering and experimenting that hasn't worked. And every time it doesn't work, they just impose a more expensive program on top of it. I think the American people, if they really look at all the facts, yes, we want fiscal responsibility. But I think we also want a country that is strong enough at all times that we can say to any adventurous guys over there on the other side of the water, you better look twice, brother, before you start getting rough. That we can take care of ourselves.
As you said, before you made the statement, that would probably get mixed reaction.
And I understand that. People aren't, and it's hard to understand how maybe your interest is involved 10,000 miles away. But Russia seems concerned that their interests extend all the way to Cuba and to South America, to Chile, and to other countries of that kind. And they're the ones that have said they're going to impose their way of life on the rest of the world. We haven't said we want to do it to the rest of the world, our way.
Let me ask you one more question before you go. Let us assume that there's a third party, that neither party seems to go.
Yeah.
You like this approach already, huh? And they're thrown into disarray, as they say, and a third party is formed. Do you think that'll ever happen in this country, where a third party will be a major type of alternate to what we have?
Well, I'd still prefer to see a revitalization of the two major parties we have, because the two-party system has served us very well. Third parties have a notorious way of not being successful. Now, the Republican Party, some people say, well, that was a third party 100 years ago when it started. It actually wasn't. It was a second party. The Whig Party had shrunk and shrunk, and then the remainder of the Whig Party said to two other groups that had formed parties, hey, want to get together with us? They changed their name and called themselves the other party. And so it was, in effect, the Whigs just disappeared. It was a new second party. Maybe this is time. Maybe it's time for realignment between people who might find themselves in the wrong parties. Maybe there's some people still voting. I was a Democrat most of my life. I became a Republican only not too many years ago. And I had the pleasure of telling some of those people that are saying the Republican Party ought to broaden its base the other day that when I switched parties, I didn't do it because the two parties were alike. I did it because they were different. And I think that the two parties ought to stand up as to what they represent, what they stand for. A third party, they have a way of electing the wrong people. Because they simply divide themselves from the other forces that feel the same way, and then the other fella sneaks in. And it could happen that neither party would represent what the people want, and finally the people would take some action, do something about it. But I'd rather devote our effort to seeing if we can't find out what the present two parties stand for and which one we want.
But you don't see yourself, or do you see yourself as maybe as a part of that, active politically again? I certainly don't give up, do I?
Yeah, you sure don't. I wish I could think of a good gift.